What's going on in America?
It's frightening what's going on, and I think part of it, and in part, has to do with of folks not having access to resources. That I think, in terms of programs that to participate in, that particularly as it relates to programs that address behavioral health, I think that's a big part of it. And physical health that leads to behavioral health problems, and likewise, the other way around. It's a quite different time, and I also think that it's much easier for folks to spew hatred and do so without folks knowing who they are. For example, with things along the lines of social media, where folks who want to do these type of things or speak this type of hate crimes topic conversations can hide behind fake names or false names on the internet, and are emboldened along those lines, be able to do that. And then oftentimes it leads to the next step and to the next level of violence and the like. I also think that it comes from some leaders around the world who don't think twice about spewing this type of hatred and in some ways inciting folks to act in a certain way. And that part has to change. That has to stop as well. And I do think at the end of the day, we have a lot of work to do as a country and as a Commonwealth to be able to rein in this type of activity, this type of violence. But I can't speak to how we do it exactly, but I do think it starts with being able to have folks have access, for example, to behavioral health programs, to be able to work and talk through things. That's why it's so important, especially with our young kids right now, coming out of the COVID, coming out of the pandemic, having the opportunity to have these type of programs available in our schools to allow students to talk to one another. We saw what happened just, I guess it was yesterday in Dallas, and other incidents around the country that, that's these type of things have to stop, but we have to recognize that there are problems, and we have to have the ability to recognize them sooner and get individuals the help that they need.
Listen, no matter the color of your skin, your race, your religious beliefs, your ethnicity, we're all members of the human race. Look, you got to get along. You got to treat people the way you want to be treated, and this nonsense has to stop. One other thing, speaking of law enforcement, I love the airport, and you get a guy from Swickley today, 22 caliber, 30 rounds of ammunition, trying to get on a plane. It happens day after day after day. We've got this beautiful airport, all the money being invested into it, 8,000 people that make a livable wage there. What's wrong with people? Don't they understand this is something you just don't do, Jay?
Well, I think folks push the limits, Rob. I think they don't believe that what the law says maybe doesn't necessarily apply to them. And that's probably part of it. And they see other folks being able to do and say things and get away with things. So they think they're going to push the limits as well. Fortunately, we have a strong TSA group at the airport and airports around the country to prevent these type of individuals getting on these planes with these type of weapons. But I just think we're in a society now where I think folks have seen other people do things or say things and don't necessarily think, and then the rules don't necessarily apply to them. They don't think they would apply to those individuals who are now caught with these type of weapons trying to get on our planes. So it's just the nature of people's mindset with respect to being able to think they can get away with things along those lines. And that's not the case.
Former Sheriff Allegheny County, of course, yourself, and I'm going to have Kevin Krause on next week, I think Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. Great guy. Love his thought process. Yep. Bill Mullen before him. What can we do to heighten security and to tighten security, whether it's the governor's mansion or our house? Just your thoughts about security overall and what we need to do.
Well, I think it starts with folks being more vigilant in terms of what they see and reporting what they see. I think that's always an important thing. If they see something suspicious, they need to report it right away. If they see an individual who may be in crisis, they need to either report it or try to get that individual help that's necessary, and reach out to authorities to be able to do that. That's one way we can do it. But also, toning down the rhetoric, I think, is a big part of what has to happen. While social media has been a great thing for people to communicate in some ways, it's also been a way for, I think, folks to be able to communicate in dark spaces and do different things that they otherwise may not be doing. And we just need to, tone down the rhetoric that exists as we go forward, not just about elected officials, but people just generally, just speaking how we speak to one another, how we treat one another, as you said earlier. We have to be kinder, more thoughtful and respectful of people and one another, regardless of our race, regardless of our religions, regardless of who we love. That's what we need to be able to do. And we need to communicate that message in a variety of ways, like you're trying to do this evening. I applaud you for talking about this because it is something that we need to communicate to folks that you would think we wouldn't have to teach these values or remind people these values, but you and I are from a different generation. But I do think we need to teach these values to a lot more other folks as well. And that's why it's important to have this discussion this evening.
Listen, one other thing, side note, and I just saw this on your social media page, and I want to bring it up, about public transit. I'm a big proponent of the Port Authority. I believe in it. It frightens me when all these cuts are being thrown at us, and I don't agree with everything, no matter what anybody thinks as far as what's going on with President Trump. I understand you have to reel in government spending, but there are certain things that I think are untouchable, and public transit is one of them. State Senator Wayne Montana, much respect for him. I've had him on many times. I don't know State Senator Lindsey Williams, but you guys recently got together and we're talking about public transit. Can you just give me an overview of that, please?
Well, yeah, we had a hearing yesterday, our Democratic Policy Committee, and we wanted to bring to light some of the challenges that our residents in the Commonwealth and Allegheny County will be facing if we don't make investments in public transit, mass transit. And that's what we're trying to talk about. But we specifically focused in on a couple of things. One, the impact on the workforce. And that's why we had folks from the healthcare system. We had folks from the private sector in. We had folks from the emerging technology folks like Duolingo come and testify and tell us what it means to their employees and the percentage of their employees who utilize and rely upon mass transit to get to and from work. And remember, we are in many places in our county, we are a 24/7 economy. Take our healthcare systems, for example, work 24/7. Our folks, their nurses and employees and the like need to get to and from work. If the only means of transportation is the bus route, to eliminate bus routes after 11 p.m. is going to critically impact our ability to have a workforce and have healthcare professionals working. Similarly, as relates to business enterprises, not being able to get folks, for example, in downtown to the financial institutions to be able to do what needs to be done on their 24/7 operations. That was a critical part of the discussion. But we also needed to hear from, for example, Port Authority or Pittsburgh Regional Transit, the belt tightening that they have already done. Some of the things I'm hearing from folks, Rob, are that we're not doing enough belt tightening there. They need to do more. Well, they needed to demonstrate in a public forum and get on the record all the things they've done since we passed Act 89 a number of years ago, and how they've done it working in cooperation with the administrators there. They've done it in cooperation with the transportation union there, number 80, Local 85. Mm-hmm. How cooperative they've been with respect to wages and with respect to benefits and hours and things of that nature. It's been a cooperative effort to make major significant reductions or belt tightening that they've done. And they've committed yesterday to do more as we go forward, but without impacting the number of routes or being more efficient and thoughtful with routes. That's going to be important as well, and fares as well as what the county puts into place. We thought it was imperative that we put on the record the things that Port Authority has been doing and will continue to do going forward to make certain that the people understand as we add more tax revenue to mass transit, that they're also putting skin in the game as well. And the final thing we wanted to talk about was I believe we need to do something along the lines of a regional transit system. You're from Beaver. My wife's family's from Westmoreland. I'm Allegheny County. So we see frequently buses riding right through Allegheny County, not stopping. I live here in Forest Hills, right down the street from my home on Ardmore Boulevard. 5 people waiting for a bus at Newport and Ardmore. They wait for the Port Authority bus, but 2 seconds behind that or before that runs by the Westmoreland Transit bus going into the same downtown Pittsburgh. They're not able to stop. We need to find efficiencies with regionalism along those lines, and I think that's going to make it much easier for more of a efficient system, combined system, similar to what they have in Southeast PA, where they have 5 or 6 county region bus system, a transit system.
I got to get to a break, but how happy are you about the ATI tentative 6-year contract with the USW? Go ahead.
I think that's important. That's hugely important. It stabilizes, again, an industry that's important to our region, the jobs that are here, and it's an agreement that I think really is tantamount to being something that's going to preserve those jobs here for years to come. And I hope that it leads to those type of agreements going forward.
Jay, thank you for your extended time tonight. Always appreciate you.
Thank you for having me, Rob.